Okay, now I'm recording. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. There's probably going to be people popping in and out, so excuse me for any interruptions. It's kind of how these smaller group meetings go. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and get started on our talk about metabolic weight loss for dietitians. And so, what I will do at the end is obviously open it up for questions and we can talk through anything that you want to talk through. I do prefer that questions, wait till the end and then we can just, again, open it up for dialogue. So what I'm going to talk about today is just some basics about weight loss, really trying to um, get you to better understand why weight loss attempts fail 90% of the time, because this is kind of what we hear about all the time. Why metabolic health matters. I'm going to talk a little about the different fat stores in our body and why that's important. Understand why visceral fat is resistant, why we need a foundational approach to weight loss, and then I will just touch on our weight loss programs. So the whole purpose of this is for you as dietitians or nutritionists to actually go through the program yourself, and then ultimately, if you choose, you can offer it to your patients as well. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Sherry Stoka. I am a registered dietitian. I opened up Weight Loss MD in 2015, so it's a medical weight loss and wellness business. So my whole philosophy obviously is, food is obviously the foundation, but I am big into root cause disease. I am a little obsessed with it. So anytime something is going on, I have to understand really all of the whys. So that's kind of what got me into, digging really, really deep into all of these different layers of weight loss. So over the last 11 years, I've been developing programs for my patients. And the programs that I'm going to be talking about today are metabolic weight loss, they are structured, and they address multiple layers of common imbalances that people are experiencing in this day and age. So we are experts in weight loss. It is all we do. We bring many different things to help our patients. I mean, we do offer, the GLPs and that type of thing, but this is more of the holistic kind of metabolic support programs that we offer to our patients. I did franchise my business in 2022. And I do have a couple franchises. I stopped franchising, so this is by no means, some people see that I do have franchises. I'm no longer franchising the business. I decided that I wanted to pivot from there and really focus on other like-minded professionals, such as, dietitians and nutritionists, because of really where my area of interest lies, and that's digging deep into the science and understanding how we can best help our patients rather than all the logistical admin nightmare stuff and opening new locations all over. So, a little bit about Wayless RD. So this is kind of something that I wanted to transition to because I have been working with patients for a very long time, and I am really finding real passion in collaborating with other like-minded, like I said, professionals. So my mission now is to really unite dietitians and functional nutritionists to reshape the future of weight management. We are the experts who are going to drive profound change in this chronic disease and obesity pandemic. And that's really, really what this is just a piece to that, what that's all about. Because as you know, I mean, people are getting information about weight loss from anywhere, everywhere, AI, Google, I mean, you name it. It's the absolute wild, wild west. And I just felt like, gosh, if we can start bringing our expertise together and be really cohesive and consistent with how we approach this, we can really start to help and change really these dire statistics that we're experiencing. Like I said, dietitians and functional nutritionists are critical players in weight loss. but many don't understand how to effectively help patients lose weight. Understanding metabolic health and looking beyond just calories and exercise is crucial because weight loss is multifactorial. And we really must go beyond addressing the symptoms, because that's kind of how our system is set up. No matter what type of condition you're treating, we are designed to treat a symptom. And I am really passionate about really helping patients understand the biological and metabolic factors that drive their health and weight loss. I mean, and this isn't just, it's obviously about weight loss, but this is whole body health. I mean, because when you can maintain a healthy weight, that's going to affect the entire body. I don't know why my little clicker doesn't always work. Okay, so the multifactorial path to metabolic dysfunction. It starts somewhere, and I am going to go through some slides. I speak a lot of just truth about our system. Some people may or may not agree with me, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with me, but this is the way that I see things. Weight issues start with the diet and they compound throughout the years. The standard American diet is horrific, and that's kind of where it all starts. So when we're eating poorly, we're not nourishing our body, we're eating inflammatory foods, that affects everything in the body. So people start to deal with sleep and stress issues. Now the hormones are out of whack. Our guts are absolutely destroyed. We're no longer getting the nutrients that we need. And so it's a progression, and ultimately the person is metabolically dysfunctional. And so this is where we really have to take a step back and look at people from a different lens, because if you're working with somebody who's metabolically healthy, it's very different than working with somebody who has metabolic dysfunction. So, when I was in school, it was all about, calories in, calories out. And I feel like people still, and I do think calories are important. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But there are so many layers that come with it, and you can't really take a metabolically busted person and put them on, a 1,200 calorie diet and think that's going to help, because it just doesn't. So we have to look beyond that, and that's why I wanted to offer the program that I offered to my patients for 11 years. I now want to educate and allow other people to experience it so that your patients can potentially experience the same. We know this. I was going to take it out because I'm sure we're so sick of seeing slides like this, but it's crazy. I mean, and we're the professionals that really are, we should feel somewhat responsible for it, because when you really, again, think about it, do we really think that, people just have no willpower anymore and they just eat too much? I mean, there's something deeper to that. And that's what I will talk a little bit about before I get into the program details. So here are some facts that, again, you probably know, but 85% of diseases are lifestyle driven and preventable. I mean, I think the percentage of metabolic dysfunction, so it's like 95% or more of Americans have some level of metabolic dysfunction. And again, that can mean various things, but it just goes to show that we're not dealing with a healthy population for the most part. Doctors are trained in medical school to give a pill for everything, as we know. So, there's never any discussions about, ways to actually get healthy. There's no coverage for health and wellness, but you can be put on 24 different meds and have surgery without question. The pharmaceutical industry infiltrates and controls everything. So they fund our government, they fund the American Nutrition Dietetics Association, medical schools, professional associations. I mean, and the collaboration with big corporate junk food companies is, it's the land of the wild, really. And so I really, as I was getting into weight loss and really seeing what was really going on. I mean, when you dig into it, it's upsetting, because I mean, really our healthcare system is driven by money. It's not really driven by, the health of the public. I mean, our schools are a perfect example. Kids are literally fed poisonous, snacks, high sugar, soda all day long. And then we're wondering why, these rates of ADHD, anxiety, depression, obesity are the new normal. And then without saying, the staples, the GMO, the process, I mean, all of these non-chemical foods are destroying our health. I mean, they're destroying our health. So we're fighting a lot of people are fighting against that. And I feel like we do tend to ignore that and still kind of focus on like, oh, calories. Let's make sure you're eating, this many carbs, but what kind of carbs are they eating? So that's another aspect of it. Okay. So another important concept that I think is important to kind of maybe reflect on, because what we're told is that obesity causes all of these things. Obesity causes infertility, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, etc. But that actually is not the truth. Obesity is actually the result of metabolic dysfunction that has been brewing for many, many years. So to help you kind of grasp that, when you think about it, you can even think about yourself or a sibling or your mother, father, whoever. You are a certain age, you're a regular body weight, you go to see your doctor, everything's fine. Year later, you've gained 20 pounds, so at that point, they're like, oh, you know what, your blood pressure is kind of hard. Hi, let's put you on blood pressure med. Okay, so now your metabolic dysfunction starts because your body can no longer manage blood pressure on its own. Okay, a year later, you jumped up again, or maybe 2 years, 3 years later. So now you're on three meds. Now, the things are compounding. The body is trying to compensate by the stress that it's in, the medications that are masking symptoms. So over time, years go by and now you're obese because no matter what you do, you can't lose weight. So it really starts from the early metabolic dysfunction and snowballs. It's not like you went into the doctor looking like, 234 pounds and then you started, then you were put on high blood pressure meds, right? So I think we just have to kind of think about things a little bit differently. And this is the one thing that I would think about a lot because we do body composition analysis for all of our patients throughout the entire program. And, we're looking at fat, visceral fat, lean body tissue, muscle mass, etc. So we were taught, and it's still factual, I think, in this day and age that approximately there's 3,500 to 4,100 calories in 1 pound of fat. So, back in the day was like, oh, okay, yeah, if we just decrease our calories by 500, we're going to lose 1 pound or 2 pounds per week. But so if you think about this, if your body stores 3,500 calories in 1 pound of fat, so this particular person you can see has 101 pounds of just body fat. So if you multiply that by, this range, that person's gonna have approximately 400,000 stored calories of fat. So, why is it? So that's why I would always like the body smart, right? Why is it that we put people on low calorie diets and weight loss stops when you have this massive amount of energy storage, but oh, the body now wants to go to the muscle mass? It just none of it makes sense. So hopefully I'll bring some light to this and then show how we can kind of bypass the dysfunction. So where we store our fat matters a lot. And I'll leave it at that because we'll get into like the different fat cells. So all fat is not the same. You have the three main adipocytes would be white adipose tissue, brown adipose tissue, and beige adipose tissue. And I'm not going to like go through in detail on this slide. You can refer to it if you want or do your own kind of research, but they're very different. And they're very different in structure. They're very different in their function, their cell composition. So just kind of keep that in mind because fat, fat is not just fat and as accessible for energy as most people just assume. And this is just a very simplistic view of like a white cell versus a brown fat cell. And you can see, so like a white fat cell is, obviously a fat that's going to store a lot more energy. This is like the fat droplet. And then it has these little mitochondria, cell nucleus. So it has, less mitochondria. You can see the brown fat. It's most people know that it's more thermogenic. It helps your body actually burn more fat just because of the structure, the nature of it, the number of mitochondria, and that type of thing. And I will talk about the mitochondria a lot because it's super important. Okay, so fat is released everywhere. So when, fat is released and it's produces its fatty acids, it goes into the bloodstream. So the fatty acids are, when they're released, they are only burned if they get into the mitochondria. So we can release, and say, oh, we're trying to, burn fat. But we don't really realize the complicated system that's at play. So just to kind of follow the slide here, again, lipolysis only liberates fatty acids into the bloodstream, and until those fatty acids are actually carried into the mitochondria and oxidize, a single calorie of stored fat has not been used. So fat cell goes into the bloodstream, the cells take it up. So usually it's like the muscle and the liver. And then there is a sophisticated system that has to get the fatty acids into the mitochondria, and because that is where it enters the TCA cycle and it produces energy so that the body can actually use it for energy. So, kind of leave it at that, but just understand that just because burning really has two very different phases to using fat for energy. So again, just to highlight in simplistic forms because it actually is very complicated. But I wanted you to understand like how important the mitochondria is for fat oxidation. So again, when fats are released, the triglycerides break down into glycerol and fatty acids. So this is when the fatty acids can go through go through the blood, they can go to the muscle, they can go to the liver. They can also be taken up by the heart and the kidneys, etc., depending on, the fat cell. A lot of different chemical reactions happen. And, we're all kind of familiar with the carnitine shuttle. So then the carnitine shuttle is what's going to allow the fatty acids to get into the mitochondria. So that's why, some people will say, oh, take carnitine because that helps with like, fat burn and things like that, which is somewhat true. But what's important is that none of this happens in like a fed state or if insulin is high. So, I mean, that's such a strong statement because the majority of people are walking around with like hyperinsulinemia, so they're never burning fat. So keep that in mind. And then beta oxidation, like I said, happens inside the mitochondria, so that now the fatty acids are available for the body to use for energy. So hopefully that made sense. So when you have damaged mitochondria, I don't know if you guys are into like mitochondria is kind of like a big kind of a trendy word now, and people are talking about, oh, supporting the health of your mitochondria. So now you can kind of see where that all plays its role in weight loss. Because if you have damaged mitochondria, which would be like oxidative stress and things like that, you're going to have reduced fat burning. You're going to have slower metabolism. You will have more damaged mitochondria, which they call mitochondrial fragmentation. And a lot of this affects the visceral fat because, as we know, in visceral fat, which I'll talk a little bit more about, is very damaging to the body, very inflammatory. So, that's another whole piece to the resistance. Okay, so just taking a step back. So far we talked about the differences in the fat cells, the importance of the mitochondria, and then we'll just talk a little bit about visceral fat. I think we all know that, and this is a busy slide, I know. I think we all know visceral fat is very, very dangerous. But I just wanted to take it a step further and kind of like give you a closer look of, what actually is going on. So I think this is actually, I mean, this is somewhat, if you look at the image, you see these little fat cells, and they have a lot of these little red capillaries in a lean person. So as you get heavier and have more fat in the visceral, say like a type 2 diabetic, you can see the fat cell is getting larger and there's less blood flow. You can see there's not as many like infiltrated like capillaries, and fat cells need that for good health. So what happens with visceral fat is these cells become, the fat cell is becoming bigger, larger, 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 and they begin to lose all blood supply, so they can become hypoxic. And in order for a fat cell to actually survive, it has to produce, these inflammatory compounds. And that is a way for it to kind of save itself and protect itself. But really, it's hurting like other, other systems in the body. So these inflammatory compounds are being produced. That's affecting different hormones. And ultimately, the fat cell can actually burst and basically just die off, which elicits more inflammation. So the visceral fat cell would be very different than like a subcutaneous fat cell, which would be like the pinchable stuff, because subcutaneous, when you're releasing fat cells from the subcutaneous, that goes straight into the bloodstream and then can go to all different tissue. Whereas visceral it's the portal vein straight into the liver. So that kind of creates this vicious cycle of, like obviously the fatty liver, because the visceral, when visceral fat cells are being released, it has to go through the liver. It cannot go anywhere else before the liver. So the liver has to handle all that. And if you are not eating a very healthy diet, it's like you are stuck. You will never get past that, that block of the liver being able to release and putting, the fat into for other systems to take up. Okay, so a quick summary. Fat cell, I talked about fat cell differentiation, and I know I'm going through this stuff really, really quick, but I just think it is important to kind of understand some of the basics. Importance of the mitochondria health for fat metabolism. Visceral fat and its damaging effects in the body causes chronic inflammation, immune dysregulation. I took that slide out. I've done many other presentations, but it does absolutely affect the immune system, and then which in turn is going to affect gut health, adrenal issues, etc. So my whole point of all of this is that it is a complex, multi-layered issue. And so we can't just assume that by manipulating the calories and exercising more that it's going to fix all of it. So we have to create this metabolic shift so that we can start to use fat for fuel very effectively. And so the programs that I created, one of the main pieces is that we need to create an energy deficit. Because if you don't create an energy deficit, your body's just going to keep using the calories coming in. You have to force your body to go to the fat stores. We have to get better control of our insulin and our blood sugar dysregulation. So macros are super important because fat burning mode is keeping your insulin and blood sugars in a tight range. The second you're fluctuating, you're gonna inhibit the fat burning mode. And we need to stop the fat cells from getting larger and larger and larger. We have to decrease the burden on the liver, so visceral fat can actually be used for energy. We have to support cell sensitivity, so improving receptor sensitivity. I think a lot of people hear about this now because of the GLPs, and everybody, majority of people are realizing like all the food noise that they have. And it literally is because of the processed nature of our foods, and we're no longer getting our GLP receptors to signal anymore because of the poor diet. So the diet is also going to enhance that receptor sensitivity. And then we need to support the fatty acid transport into the mitochondria, again, so we can actually produce ATP and allow the body to use it for energy. So the program that I put together accomplished all of these things in one program, because you can try to do like, oh yeah, let me really work on just low calorie eating, but that only gets you so far. So again, it's more of like a really synergistic approach. Nutrients are very, very, very crucial. And I mean, I'll talk about like our different programs. I mean, the supplements are such a huge piece to it, but this is more just in general. Like we have to obviously acknowledge the fact that, supplements are kind of meaningless if you're eating a poor diet. But I don't think we realize how depleted we are as a population just because of the farming practices, the poor food quality, highly processed foods, which is causing excessive just stress to the mental or physical body. And then, our guts. I mean, the majority of people walking around with like leaky gut and so many other immune, dysregulated issues. So nutrients are absolutely crucial. And um, I just get like sometimes I just get so angry, and I'm like I played college soccer. I played pro women for a little bit, and I'm watching the World Cup, and I see, one of the U.S. players like promoting Centrum. I'm like, it's stuff like that that just drives me nuts. But if you haven't done so, just take a look at like the Centrum ingredient label. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, look at this. Preservatives, hydrogenated oil, titanium. I mean, it's crazy. So the quality of supplements is more important than the actual supplement itself. So I take that very much to heart. I am like meticulous in how I pick certain things. So I just wanted to point that out because I do feel like everyone's into supplements, but digging deeper into like, okay, what actually supplements are you taking? So in our program, we are utilizing a synergy of different nutrients. So there are specific nutrients that are going to protect and build muscle during a calorie deficit. There's going to be nutrients that support detoxification, fat mobilization, and then mitochondrial health. So all of these things are going to be specifically, in kind of, well, each program is going to have like, and I'll talk about it, each program is going to have like their slight nuances, but that's kind of the approach that I wanted to produce when putting this into one program essentially. So if you wanted to experience the metabolic weight loss program yourself, there's two options. So one of them is called HC2, and the other one is called HCA lean. So you can see HC2 has 3 products, HCA lean has 3 products. So the difference, if you're looking for weight loss, they're both quick weight loss. They're both intended to improve metabolic health, metabolic markers. There's slight differences, which I'll kind of talk about. So the HCA lean, like I said, quick weight loss, you're going to get the metabolic shift. It was designed for people who are exercisers because I have other programs, but I'm talking about 2 of them today. These very structured programs, we don't require people to exercise at high amounts or high intensity because it actually takes you out of a fat burning mode. we want to keep you kind of like low cardio and that type of thing. It's just kind of the way that the program is designed in the way that body accesses energy. Because if you're doing high intensity, then it takes you out of the fat and goes to the carb, glycogen and things like that. But this one, I created after my first one because I wanted to offer something for people that were always exercising and wanted to continue that. So this is going to provide extra muscle sparing ingredients and mitochondria support. So again, this would be more for someone that's like, I exercise, I've been exercising for most of my life, and if I'm going to go on a program, you can't tell me to just walk every day. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the other program is called HC2. And this program is I put together because I wanted to support the toxicity in the body because everybody is kind of toxic loaded, and it really was designed to kind of support the liver and the gallbladder. So it's quick weight loss, metabolic shift, does a great job at making sure that once you're mobilizing all those toxins, because a lot of toxins are stored in the fat cells. So when you're breaking down and mobilizing fats, those toxins will come into circulation. So these products were designed to really help support the different detox pathways. So this is a really amazing program as well. And again, for someone who maybe has been told that they have elevated liver enzymes or they just have a highly processed diet for a long period of time. And then with both of our programs, so whichever one you choose, you're going to be taking the three supplements, and then you're going to follow a very specific diet. So the diet, and this is kind of why, because I never used to do an intro session, but now I felt like I needed to do the intro session so people understood exactly what they were getting into because you have to follow it. It's kind of just how it is. It's not like, oh, kind of stick to like a range. It's like this is the plan and you have to follow it. It's short term, but it's a very strategic process. So it's lower calorie. We are creating a calorie deficit. It is low fat, low carb, super clean eating with adequate protein. So you are going to be eating lean proteins, a little bit of fruit, vegetables, and we're holding off on like the healthy fats till like the phase 2 of it. So hopefully that makes sense. So, just as a summary to outline what is happening in this during this process is we are stabilizing blood sugars, keeping it in a tight range. We are getting the insulin low. It is the only way you can burn fat. It is the only way. So if you haven't had your insulin levels checked, I would probably do that. Um, you're going to have decrease in inflammation. This program is designed to go after the visceral fat, and hence you will be in a healthier metabolic state after the program with quick weight loss, which I'll talk about. Um, let me just, okay, I'm pretty good on time. I'm almost done here. I did put a couple before and afters just to kind of you can see that I mean, we have some people that are very, very heavy with some people that have 20 pounds to lose. So this particular person had 20 pounds to lose. So you can see we really want to focus on like how much fat did they lose, how much visceral fat, and did they maintain their muscle? And most of our patients do really well. I, what I will say is, so like for this particular person, she did have a little bit more muscle mass to lose, or she had a little more muscle loss. But what's really, really, really important when you're, working with patients is really understanding what muscle mass is made up of, because not all muscle mass is healthy tissue, right? You can have fat infiltrated. So uh, it's okay to lose a little bit of muscle as long as you see that the fat is going down at a quicker rate. Again, I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes, but this is just again showing you this is 30 days, results in 30 days. Body fat, visceral fat went from 20 to 16. Muscle mass pretty much stayed the same. So, etc. Like I said, these are all 20 or 30-day programs. So 19 pounds, starting fat, 94 pounds of fat to 70 pounds of fat. So they can be pretty significant. So we're offering this group to dietitians, obviously nutritionists, functional nutritionists as well. So that, whether you just want the education, you want to try it, maybe you are struggling to lose weight, or you're looking for a different option for your patients. So if you are someone that doesn't really have a lot of weight to lose, then this really isn't going to be a program for you. It really is intended for someone that has excess fat and has definitely over like 10 pounds to lose. So you do have the option to always go through the program, and then you can facilitate with a close family member. You can just go through, like I said, as educational experience. But it really isn't for, like in our last group, there were quite a few people that only had 5 pounds to lose, and it just isn't for that because of so many reasons. And we talk about that as when we're doing our weekly sessions. So the program is a 30-day program. We will get on a weekly group call. And like I mentioned, you are required to follow a very specific diet and supplement plan. The average weight loss is 10 to 20 pounds in the 30 days. If the more you have to lose, the more you lose,